Good morning.
Hello, hello, hello. Those
Is
are my
this
two
still
favorite
morning?
letters.
What do you say? You said LO are your two favorite letters?
Yeah, hello, hello, hello. Those are my two favorite letters in a
Are
British
they?
accent.
Oh, in the British accent. I
Is
thought
it
you were
just a
saying your
dumb
two
joke?
favorite letters in general.
I do have two favorite letters, but let's get to that in a split second. You were about to greet the people
Well, I
to
was
the
gonna
show.
ask though, because I said good morning, and I
Uh-huh.
was like, it's noon now though. So is morning even the appropriate thing to say? I have no idea.
Time is fastly becoming an illusion.
That's true.
Fastly is a word. I mean, it's always been an illusion, but now that everybody is like at home and the majority of people are out of work, the need to get up isn't necessarily there, especially when you know that there's some fresh bullshit waiting for you on the breakfast table
Is that
every
what I
single morning.
smell? Is that what I smell?
Yes,
Fresh bullshit.
every single morning, some fresh new bullshit. Just like, ooh, a plate of it, a whole plate, steaming pile.
So how you feeling today, Baron?
Me?
How are you doing? Yeah, man. How are you?
I'm feeling a lot of different things. I mean, there's a couple. I'm feeling bittersweet. You know, we're kind of winding this project down.
I hear
You
that.
know, this is this. We got a couple more shows.
On this run for sure.
Yes.
Just a couple more.
I'm still high off of getting to talk to Robert Townsend yesterday.
It was pretty impactful and amazing.
Pretty amazing. I also realized because we had that fire alarm situation and I came back and I was discombobulated that I did not get to praise Diallo Riddle as much as I really wanted to. I didn't get to actually talk about how much I love Sherman Showcase and the specifics of how I think it probably is my favorite show on TV right now. And it's weird because it's like that was our homie Diallo, and I just had this assumption that everybody has seen what we've seen, so I didn't feel the need to talk about it, but I do now. I feel like, oh, I didn't get to actually say like how brilliant and incredible that show is and how well executed and well written and well acted, everything from the sketch parodies to the damn songs. We had the homie Fonte that worked on the show. Dude I went to high school was in it too. His name is Neo, no big, but like I didn't know him, but we went to the same high school apparently.
I went to the same high school as NBA former star Quentin Richardson.
Well, you went to high school in Chicago.
I did. That's true.
I assume that there's a lot of people that have been to your high school that went there or in your neighborhood that have gone on to become all kinds of great things.
Yeah, Michelle Obama went to my high school too.
What?
Yeah.
The floatus of my heart. Oh,
That one. The one and only. The one
That's
and
all.
only.
Can't even remember who went to my high school. Rutina Wesley, the homie. She's on the show. She's on the show Queen Sugar.
Oh, okay.
Juliana Huff. I don't know her, but she was on So You Think You Can Dance, I think. Matthew Gray Goobler from the show Criminal Minds.
See, y'all got crazy alumni. All of y'all is actors too. All of y'all are working. That's tight.
Those are just the ones I know. Those are the ones that I like around the time that I was in there. So I have no idea. No idea. Oh, except for Juliana Huff. She's way younger than me. Anyway, why are we talking about this?
Because I asked you how you doing.
Oh, yes. I feel weird. And I mean, there's a lot of things going on, obviously, you know, and I'm thinking about the state of the world constantly, as you are, you know, especially because there was a news item today that, you know, relates to one of our guests that we had, who I've actually mentioned a lot, actually, I think, Melina Abdullah, who has been instrumental in making some change here in Los Angeles. And the Los Angeles Unified School District was they were voting to basically get the police out of schools, you know, to figure out alternatives to safety, school safety, instead of having the police there, and they voted it down. So there's still going to be police at schools, and I hate that, especially knowing that I think today is Tamir Rice's birthday. Tamir Rice would have been 18 today. Wow. He would have been graduating high school, and so it's kind of like, to synthesize those things, to think about like a soul that was lost, a shining young soul that was lost, and the perceptions of what he must have been doing because of his blackness, you know, and then thinking about like, we know what schools are going to have the most police at them. You know what I mean? Like Beverly Hills High isn't overrun with a bunch of, you know, uniforms just kind of standing around looking at everybody like they're up to something. So I guess it's just kind of like, I'm disappointed, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm still happy that these things are in the public consciousness, that they're being discussed all around the country. Because a couple of years ago, we had the opportunity as a state to vote down the death penalty, and we didn't do that either. So I'm just kind of like, fuck's going on in California here and there, here and there, but that's California, the state. But this was like, Los Angeles Unified School District. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking about.
I think that even in defeat, and I'm not trying to find a silver lining in something like that would clearly be a good thing, not being voted for. But I mean, it's largely similar to how it means, or what it means when Bernie Sanders has an unsuccessful bid for the Democratic nomination, and how his support and his presence pushes everything to the left. So suddenly we're having, like you said, we're having these discussions now, which means that even having that proposal as a thing to be voted on means that, that's an idea that's more in the public consciousness now, and we're closer to it than ever before.
Yes. And that's the thing that kind of gives me hope, I guess, but I'm just impatient. I want to see, I want things
we don't have
faster,
time.
Obviously.
That's real. That's because we get murdered fast. So everything else should happen fast too.
Yes. Yeah. And then we both have children who are going to be end up in these school districts. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, just a little bit. But yeah, I think a lot of candidates, politicians, some of them just show up. I'm not going to vote for them, but at least they put that idea forward. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about people like Jill Stein, or like Andrew Yang. Like, they weren't my candidate, but like, Jill Stein was the first person I heard talk about a Green New Deal, you know what I mean? And then Bernie and AOC kind of ran with it. Andrew Yang brought in this idea of what does it mean to... I liked a lot of his philosophies. I'm not sure if I like a lot of his philosophies, but some of the stuff was interesting. And again,
Marianne Williamson talked about crystals.
Talk about crystals.
I needed that,
She didn't call the United States girlfriend, like just the kind of just like girlfriend, like basically. I feel like in one of the debates she quoted Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost. Like when she was like, United States, you in trouble, girl. I feel like she actually said that out loud, and Kamala Harris was just kind of like, I mean, it's true, but she shouldn't be the one saying that. But like, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like even like Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, I feel like their biggest contribution is bringing the conversation of how wealth distribution is working in this country. You know what I mean?
And it resonates with people.
Obviously.
Like we want to hear those types of things, and that's what really pushes the conversation forward. Is like those people become supported because they're saying things that reflect things that people actually want. When for so long the Democratic Party has been it says one thing, and oftentimes it's beholden to other entities. When these people are coming along saying like, wait a minute, no, I do want that. Like, we do want healthcare. We do want education that's affordable or free. Like, these are things, these are ideas that resonate with us. So like these candidates get pushed with a sense of populism that actually makes us feel connected to the democratic process. Yes. Which is something that's been getting lost for a while now.
Well, it's lost in a lot of ways. I don't even want to get started on the parties of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and how these are two parties that I left a long time ago. I was invited to the party, and I looked in. I was like, this is weird. Who's been double dipping? And I just feel like both of them have very limited perspectives.
But the thing about parties in this country that's really interesting is that the ideologies can change. Like, the names can stay the same, but the ideologies can change really easily. Absolutely. So like, we're looking at a Democratic Party that's moving left, whether it wants to or not. And the people who are established and dug in are fighting that change. Yes, but it's happening, and absolutely these ideologies cycle over time. The names stay the same, but it's really the Democratic Party is simply the collection of people and what they agree on in that moment.
And now there's the term democratic socialist, which is being used a lot. I feel like when I study the history of this country, parties die. Like there was Whigs, and now we don't have Whigs. You know what I mean? And their philosophies, woo, you know what I'm saying? No, we had the Bull Moose Party, we had Whigs, we had Democratic Republicans. These parties came and went because they no longer served the people of this country, right? Right. So to me, the word Democrat and Republican have been around too long, and it's time for them to go. Now, of course, there's democratic socialism. That's a new kind of idea. Obviously, people are talking about things like independents and libertarians and the Green Party and stuff like that. But we have a two-party system, you know what I mean? And it's kind of, this whole thing is kind of fixed for us to be so monogamous to one party. And it's just kind of like, we need a lot more ideas, you know?
Well, it's really, you know,
we need to be polypartious.
It's the economic structures that are fixed. You know what I mean? It's the economic systems, it's the donation systems, it's the foundations, it's the fundraising. All of that is what's fixed into place, and why it's so hard for any other party to really get a foothold is because they don't have the structure built up that these other ones do. So that's why, for me, you know, it's more about infiltrating what's already there and changing it with new ideas, you know?
Well, that is actually a fantastic way to kind of go into what our topic is today. We're going to be talking about tech, the world of tech and media. Obviously, you know, what we're talking about, like, if you feel a little meh about political parties, luckily, there is this entire world of technology, the internet, media, and all of these, you know, adjacent kind of entities that are doing a lot to get the truth to people, doing a lot to, you know, signal boost, to uphold voices, to talk about what's going on in ways that are a little less tied to the richest man in America owning the, you know, owning the newspaper or something like that, or the richest man in New York owning the stuff like that. So it's kind of like, I am a bit of a tech nerd. Now, people don't know this about me because I'm black, and nobody ever asks me about this shit because they want to ask me about black shit. So I was just setting up a brand new computer I got last night. Alienware Aurora R9. No bragging, but bragging at the same time. And I was talking to a friend, a white friend, kind of, who was up at the same time when I was up at 1 o'clock. She was very drunk. And she was like, I didn't know you were such a tech nerd. And I'm like, yeah, I've read Kurzweil. I know I know what the singularity is. You know what I mean? I'm an early adapter to a lot of these things. You know, I've been on instant messenger since 7th grade, you know, so kind of like I've always been aware of all these things. I had a computer when I was a kid, you know, but that's not the field I have gone into technically, right? But it is a field I'm interested in, right? Especially because it, like the rest of the world or the country, I feel like there's a battle in the tech world for the soul of it.
It's because we all live in it.
Because we all live in it, but the people who created it, people who created it, just like the Industrial Revolution, are mostly very rich white people, right? So the space for, and obviously there have been black and brown people of all kinds that have been in that space, but they tend to get marginalized. They tend to get pushed aside. Sometimes they're the only person in that one room. And then the whole of the, you know, what do black people think? One black person here, like everything falls on that person. So, but now we have moved to a place where there are more voices of color in tech. Right. Also, there's the one side of tech where it's like, oh, influencers, right? And then there's the other side where there's Arab Spring. There's the other side where the hashtag Black Lives Matter becomes a movement, you know what I'm saying, where people are using it as a tool for empowerment and taking the world forward. At the same time, on the other side of the spectrum, people are living in a fake world where they look correct at all time, right? So it's like this weird battle for the soul of tech. And I that's something I'm curious about, especially as we go forward. And I think that all of our guests are going to have a lot to say about, you know, all the various different industries that they're involved in too. What do you think about what I just said right there, Mike?
I mean, I think it's fantastic table setting for bringing our first guest in, who is a writer, activist, commentator, who's really, really made his own lane in that space. And I don't know, I'm really fascinated to dig in with him about what he thinks about tech and how that deals with us as people going forward, especially in the moment that we're having. So let's welcome to the show, Baratunde Thurston.
Yo, hello, new Negroes. Good to see you.
That's us.
Nuevos Negros. Very
Yes,
good to find
That's
you
in
here.
Spanish at that too.
Yes, we are multilingual. Yo, black people are everywhere. We're
That's
everywhere.
I know some of us did not go north, and some of us landed in a different continent. I'm sorry. What were you saying, Baratunde?
If I may just weigh in on some of which y'all have been talking about.
Please.
Oh, you were
already.
listening? Damn.
Yeah. I like to know what I'm walking into. I too miss Marianne Williamson. She was an original G. And I have a fact check from Mike.
Sure.
Michelle Obama did not go to your high school.
I know where you're going with this.
Michelle Obama high school. Let's just and shift the power where it belongs.
That's real.
Brother.
That's real. The gravity has shifted. But I thought she was about to hit me with her maiden name. I thought you was going with that.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't gonna go that far. This is first level fact check. We can go deeper as the show.
Well deserved fact check that was.
First level fact check. I like that. Well, Baratunde, so happy to have you here. I've known Baratunde for I met you like way back, like in the beginning of both of our careers in Boston.
2003-ish.
Yeah, maybe even
that.
Before that. Maybe even before that. We were both in Boston at the same time, different schools. I'll just say that Baratunde went to Harvard. And just put that out there. I went to BU, whatevs. The point is that Baratunde has always been a guy who I always looked to inform me on what was happening in the world of tech. He's always been very connected to the world of tech. For various reasons. Baratunde is the reason that I signed up for Twitter or Instagram or Foursquare, even probably MySpace and Facebook is because Baratunde was the first person to tell me about it. So I just kind of wanted to ask, like, why you know all that stuff?
So I want to thank you for signing up for all the services. I got a nice kickback for every black person that attends the gaping maw of billionaire-controlled extractive capitalist platforms.
There's always a pyramid scheme behind every door.
Always a hustle in the hustle. No, thank you for that setup. I'm that way because I was formed by my mother, Arnita Thurston, and she was a computer programmer herself way back in the late 70s and early 80s. I was born in 77. I was born into a house almost from birth with a computer, which is like a very rare thing for any family, much less a black family in the hood in DC,
right.
where I came up. So she set the stage kind of literally. And then I also had no girlfriends. And so I think if you take the maternal influence and the lack of a girlfriend influence, it creates a beautiful opportunity to learn about technology and to spend a lot of time on the internet as a middle schooler and a high schooler.
But enough about your script for that movie, Simone. What an obscure pull. Anyway, you were saying Baratunde.
Yeah, so I learned early on the power of these platforms to give me power. I had more information, so I was tasked in the household and sometimes in the neighborhood to make the signs for the yard sale, make the signs for the missing dog, make the signs for like my lawn mowing business, organize the phone tree with the spreadsheet database for the parents group of all the parents of black students in my high school. And I worked in the newspaper at school, and so I was doing layout programs, Aldous PageMaker for any old school people in the room.
Wow.
They're like, oh, you can like not just do calculations with this super calculator, you can manipulate language and create art. And that merged, into the time when I met you, Baron, where I was doing stand-up, in all the rooms in Boston, but I was also making a podcast in like 2003 before it was called podcasting. It was a great way to express myself without asking permission. It was a great way to get information about resources that mattered, like auditions or job opportunities or gatherings of black students in groups in Boston, various Boston universities. And it was a way to not feel so alone and to sort of have a stage in a virtual space, which is what we've all been forced to. Thank you, Zoom. By the way, everything's working. Literally, yeah.
So you've been ahead of the curve, situationally, circumstantially, and now intentionally, your entire life with tech. You've been ahead of the curve. So I'm wondering where you sit right now. Is there something that you see on the horizon, something else that's coming? A new wave you see that people aren't really hip to right now, but you think might be a game changer?
Yeah, justice for Black people. No, I'm just kidding. Singularity will come first. But there's no specific piece of technology that I'm like, oh, this is the thing that's going to change everything. It's Bitcoin or something like that. I do think to what y'all were speaking to earlier, I think Baron used this term, battle for the soul. Mm-hmm. And I see everything we care about taking place, being mediated by some level of networked technology. Everything. And that's rare. The closest analogy is just the idea of capitalism. Like everything we care about has been affected by, mediated by, infected by, some might say, money. Mm-hmm. But I think even beyond that, love is going to run through tech. Church and Jesus and whatever God you may or may not worship is going to run through tech. Sex is running through tech. Your democracy, if you have one, if you're so lucky to have one that functions, hello, Canada, then that's also going to be run through tech. And so that raises the stakes on how we define what technology is. So for me, it's not like this technology is going to change the world. We should all be aware. It's like, no, the world's going to be eaten by technology. And we should make sure that we are on the right side of that power dynamic in determining how those systems are designed, who has oversight of them, who can benefit from them. That's the thing I care more about than a specific app or like some VC's portfolio investment.
Nice. Yeah. Off that, what you're saying, because you've always struck me as a bit of a, well, not a bit of a, you are a theorist about where things have been and where things are going. And I consider myself in that same place with tech, not at your level, obviously, but I just like to think about it. And obviously I was talking about Kurzweil before. And I guess I kind of want to think about, or I want to talk to you about, what's to come, I guess, in a sense, in the sense of, I guess I want to say Afrofuturism. You know what I mean? Like Kurzweil's a futurist, so it's kind of like I'm an Afrofuturist. I consider you an Afrofuturist, and I guess what I'm asking is, what are some of the things you would like to see emerge? Say that, because like you're saying, like I'm always struck by the fact that like most of the research we've done in tech or stuff like that is usually military. Like that's where most of the money is spent.
And porn, Baron. Military and porn.
Blowing in many different ways, right? Blowing things up in many different ways. Different kinds of explosions. That's a better phrase. Use take two. So, but the point of that is that like, that's true because of the people that have a say in where the money goes to be researched, right? It's always been true in science as well. So the voices have to be included, right? So considering, if you think about if Black people are in the room in which if they're included in the pool of voices that get to determine what kind of technology we are going to make and what direction we're going to go. Say if Baratunde Thurston was in that room, what are some of the things that Baratunde would say, this is what we should head towards?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's hopeful, it's aspirational, it's creative. And maybe it's a little fun. So I would love the world where we start by solving the problems that people say they have, not just the problems that those who run the investment into technology have. So the problems we're solving now are like, how do I get an overpriced, like kale-based burrito delivered to me faster, right? We spent a lot of money on solving that problem. We spent a lot of money on solving high-end butler level problems. Like, I don't want to do my laundry, somebody help me out type problems. Basically, I miss my mommy problems. Versus problems of my job has me working double shifts, closing and opening, or it's so unpredictable that I can't properly schedule time with my child or care for my child. The public transit system is designed in such a way, we have all these like super slick apps for Uber, etc., but like our metro apps have fallen way behind. The ability to deliver healthcare and understand what's happening with our bodies, that's in a league well behind the one that we should be living in. And even when you think about policing, you know, there was something that happened in Chicago, I believe yesterday, at a protest, where protesters were finding out the names of the officers who were policing them in the moment, looking them up in a database of officer complaints, and then airing their dirty laundry over a megaphone in real time.
Whoa.
And those officers were shamedly walking away.
Yes.
Because they were able to hide behind this thin blue line cloak, which is in part a proprietary database that doesn't have to be that way. So if the white supremacists and the like patriarchal like men's rights activists can dox a woman for criticizing video games and have to move her family, maybe the people who have the right to kill with no accountability should have a smidgen of accountability brought to them, and technology can play a part of that. It doesn't have to be fully weaponized, but I think we need to balance the way we use this great power. So those are some of the types of things. I'd say another like theoretical category thing that I'm big on is the way that money flows in these systems would shift. We're generating a lot of value for Facebook, for Instagram, for WhatsApp, aka for Facebook. Every time we log in, right? Every time we send a message, they're able to capture the value of that. And they'll say, well, we gave you a list of your friends. And you're like, you're extracting tangible dollars from me to then reflect my life back to me. That's what the record industry did with hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to charge me to hear my own story? That's weird. And so could we create, the answer is yes. Will we create, who knows, a different distribution of economic value in the technical system where it doesn't just all accrue to the existing winners, this hyper concentration of wealth, so that we have some share of the systems that we by definition create. Facebook without us is just an empty unused server. It's nothing. So how can we have a fairer distribution of that wealth through the data that we're using? I would love to see much more creativity applied to solving that kind of economic problem.
That's an incredible idea, and it's just got my brain buzzing just thinking about that. For you being at the forefront of technology, what that seems to mean to me is that you're going to have a great access to information. You're going to be seeking information constantly. My experience with information is that a byproduct of consuming it means that sometimes it can isolate me a little bit. Like if I'm in a group of friends and I read a book that they're not all reading, it kind of puts me a little bit like a smidge outside of the community. And I'm wondering, in your experience, has it ever been challenging to balance seeking new information with maintaining community?
Wow. That's a very interesting and thoughtful question, Mike. Thank you. Get new friends. And I mean, that's like one way out of it. The other is to seek balance in your own life and pause. I think in my experience, it has sometimes been a challenge. So many of the conversations that I initiate drive toward like all the stuff I'm absorbing. And if everybody else isn't doing the same thing, it can be isolating. It's not always fun to just like absorb more stuff than the average person or than whoever your community is. I think the other thing is separate from the specifics of the information absorbed. There is, because we have access to so much, we can overdo anything. And so there's like a fiendishness, there's a hoarding, there's an addiction that gets triggered. And so coming out of that space of screen management and feed management and tapping and clicking and swiping and just being present can be harder. And in the times of COVID, we're actually forced to interact and find community much more through screens. So it's a bit of a paradox that we're being asked to be present and be there with your friends, but the way to do that's through a screen where all these notifications keep popping you up to do other stuff on the screen,
right,
to distract you from the presence with your friends. So it has been not easy. It has been hard, another way of saying it. And I go for walks and try to like actually physically be in a space and look a distance greater than that of my computer screen, like off yonder ridge, just to remind my evolutionarily produced body what it was designed to do. And I meditate. My fiance has just been encouraging me, like, because even meditation has like a goal. She's like, why don't you just sit and that's it. Just sit. And, because I am always a person, when I go for a walk, I shove a podcast into this ear and like another thing into this ear. I'm a cookie monster with the information.
Right.
So I am trying to institute new rituals that get me off of that treadmill and reconnect me with myself, with my physical environment. And I know that then helps me reconnect with the people I love.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Hashtag unplug.
Hashtag try.
Well, I remember you were, again, one of the first people I heard talking about that. Like when that sort of it entered the cultural lexicon where people were talking about the idea of, you know what, of course we love all this tech, but we need to take a break. You need to not take in all this stuff. But again, you're probably the first person that I heard talking about anything like that. So, but yeah, you were just, I just wanted to bring that back around. So
that was my first magazine cover. I was on the cover of Fast Company magazine.
Yeah.
Talking about unplugging and digital detoxing. There was a whole phase where a lot of techie journalist type people did that. And now we are all in the opposite. I mean, I feel for parents who have been feeling like they were just getting a handle on managing screen time for their kids. And now are just like, just take the iPad, please. Like, I don't know algebra. Just go. Just live your life. It's hard.
It's a very hard thing. That's a giant theme that's happening across this country, is this work-life balance, I guess, myth more than anything else. I mean, people, the idea that you can be at home and parent and homeschool and do your job all in the same place. And, that's another thing I think is getting highlighted, during this pandemic, which is actually what I wanted to talk to you about, in the same vein of where tech is going. But like, obviously this pandemic has very much brought it very much into our face. Like you were talking about, obviously there's a lot of news about Zoom was not expecting to be as big as it was. They weren't ready to handle what they're doing. So I guess I wanted to ask you how you think that what's happening right now is changing our relationship to tech, and which of those changes you think will be permanent going forward.
I have tried to avoid answering such questions so quickly, but I'll tell you a story and instead of theorizing. My older sister, her name is Belinda. She runs a donation-based yoga studio in Lansing, Michigan, on the other side of the tracks, literally. And she wanted to make yoga accessible and not keep it in this financially elevated Lululemon prerequisite skinny white woman body only universe. And she's been at this for years. The first, and I think maybe still the only, donation-based studio in the state of Michigan. And she for years is very digital, like me. We had the same mother, and she's 9 years older, so she had a different access to technology, but we both had jobs powered by the internet. And she had been talking about innovating her way in her studio practice, but she just didn't do it. And then COVID hits, and my sister is shaming me in the levels of her broadcasts. She does a daily yoga thing. She's doing one-on-one lessons. She's got a remote producer using StreamYard as a platform with her. She's got lower third titles and logos. I don't have that. It's literally my job. And she's out innovating me because she had to, because her physical studio was unavailable to have anyone in. And financially, we'll see. It might end up being even better. I'm not sure that the numbers, but it's definitely not massively worse. And then she's also having conversations with other yogis and yogis of color all over the country, and her voice is being spread and she's bringing other people in. So that sort of what I think of as like forced innovation is really powerful. And I don't have kids myself, but I have a lot of friends who have cloned themselves through biology. And they, some of them are teachers, some of them are just parents. And so schools were caught on the back foot, a lot of them. Some very well resourced private schools in parts of our own county here in LA were like, we've been ready for this. But the vast majority of schools were not. And so they've had to learn and it's not perfect by any stretch, but they're all, I think, in a much more forward-looking, resilient, innovative space than they were before this. So there's something about, there were some holdouts to getting online, to having contactless payment in your retail operation. I'm going to stick with the cash thing. Well, now you can't. So we got to get that mobile pay with Google Pay or Apple Pay or whoever. Well, just those two. Those are the two companies that run our mobile lives. But duopoly's better than monopoly. So I think that will stick. I think a lot of that is not going to be totally undone. I think that the juggling and the parents who just want schools to reopen, like that's going to have to be solved because these parents are going to lose their minds, and that is unsustainable. But some levels of innovation that have forced people to take part in this networked world, I don't think we'll be undoing those.
I got a chance to watch your TED Talk, and it was amazing. And I think one great thing about it was that you take things and reframe them, especially using language in ways that really makes you think about the concepts that we all think we're already pretty familiar with. You spend time on, what I would call these barbecue Becky type incidents where typically it's a woman who we all call Karen now, who has taken out her cell phone and is calling the police on a black person who is just living their life in some way or another. In your TED Talk, you described these incidents as evidence of progress, and I thought that was really fascinating. And if you would, I'd like you to explain that a bit here, because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it was. Thank you for watching it, and thanks for giving me a chance to talk more about it. That talk is called "How to Deconstruct Racism One Headline at a Time," and the discovery of progress happened like this. I had been flooded with, I think we all were, these like dash cam, shaky cell cam, vertical videos in our social media feeds of police killing people who looked a lot like us. And that's traumatizing. Mm-hmm. And it's really destabilizing in a Facebook-like environment where there's no segue into that. It's not like right. Facebook says, now we're going to get to the traumatized Negro hour, right? And you can kind of brace yourself and get a glass of something or like emotionally prepare. It just goes from like my high school friend had a baby to like, here's an ad for something that I was talking about to a friend to like, here's a thought piece about some trend with millennials to like murder. Ooh. And that was devastating. Like the acts themselves of what these officers were doing to black people was devastating, but then to get dragged into it without preparation. Like we're prepared for Black History Month. Like, okay, we're gonna dust off these Negro spirituals. We're gonna like relive the Edmund Pettus Bridge moment. Like when the D-Day anniversary comes around for World War II, it's on the calendar. Like we know Veterans Day, we know Memorial Day. We don't just get like popped into a war scene. And so I thought that the phenomenon of white people calling the cops on black people, which briefly had a hashtag of living while black, because it was like, well, we're barbecuing, we're jogging, we're waiting for an Uber on a street in Brooklyn. Our backpack is brushing up against a woman in a bodega. That the videos were no longer of the physical violence. It was still violent. It was an emotional violence. It was a weaponization of white discomfort and fragility and access to a very violent state apparatus known as police. But still, it felt like progress because we were like moving upstream from the extrajudicial police killing to the phone call that might end up in an extrajudicial police killing.
Right. Right. Okay, it's fantastic. I mean, I love that idea and the framing of it. So I was glad to have you talk about that some here.
Yeah, really fantastic. Yeah, we got to wrap up in a little bit, but I guess I wanted to talk to you about, you got a new podcast coming out. As a person who was podcasting before podcasting had a name, you have a new podcast coming out called We're Having a Moment, which starts tomorrow, I believe. Yes.
Right.
Can you tell us about that and the moment that we're having?
Yeah, I can. I will. Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm working with iHeart to release this show. Very fast turnaround, like the show I'm on with y'all right now, as we're in a particular time. And it started to feel when Derek Chauvin very slowly killed George Floyd, that something snapped in a lot of people, that something broke in us. And we were able to feel that because we had already been pushed to an edge by the coronavirus and by our government's embarrassingly incompetent response to the coronavirus. It didn't have to be this way. Hello, New Zealand. Like, it didn't have to be this way. But we're here.
Yeah.
And we're in this space where I was just getting comfortable with the idea of like death by neglectful homicide, by a passive federal government response. And then here comes Amy Cooper in Central Park, pulling the Living While Black card, weaponizing her discomfort, trying to rain down state-sanctioned hell on Christian Cooper. Missed, but the very same day, poetically unjust as it was, the very same day, we got Derek Chauvin slowly killing George Floyd in response to a 911 call. So those stories are connected. And then everything that popped open after that, the flare-ups of our national body's response to this infection of white supremacy, has revealed like, yo, there's something different happening in this moment. And I just wanted to try to capture it. I'm not predicting the strength of the movement that's going to grow from this moment, but it feels important to me to grab hold of this defining moment of history while we're still in it, lock it up in a searchable set of like 6 episodes, because they will try to deny that coronavirus ever even happened. Yes. They will deny any of this. It's likely to start falling apart. And it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of white liberal looters hijacking Black Lives Matter, which is No. Something different happening with this. Cities are seriously considering defunding the police. Y'all talked about it already. So that's what the show is my attempt to explain some of these concepts, like what is defund the police, to capture the meaning of this moment and the significance of it, and break it down a bit with some jokes, but then just a lot of fire too.
Nice.
It's a document. It's a document of this moment.
Yeah, it's an audio document. Thank you.
That's the biggest thing. I feel like America has just never been honest about what has happened in America. It's a very simple thing.
That's exactly it.
This country has been in a perpetual state of cognitive dissonance since its inception. We cannot agree on what history is. We can no longer agree on what facts are.
Yeah.
But we can agree that the brutal murder of George Floyd, in a world in which we have seen all these videos over and over and over and over again, to the point where you're right, it's like, it's so traumatizing, but we had to have this document, because people have been saying, before we all had camera phones, that's not true, that's not happening, what were they doing? And then it's he said, they said cops versus humans, thing. But now with the documentation, it brings it into a different light. And of course, that documentation got normalized and traumatizing. And so it took a video that is far and beyond. It's like the worst, the longest, defiant. We've had all the guests talk about it. Roxanne Gay talked about how that officer looked at the camera like, what?
Yeah.
Robert Townsend talked about him having his hands in his pocket like, what? It's just a casual Friday or whatever. So it's kind of like it's such an extreme example of the pettiness and I guess the hatred that has been there.
To me, it's you take what Officer Pantaleo did to Eric Garner. Take what the BART police did to Oscar Grant, and you combine them. And then you have it happen in broad daylight, and you stretch it out. It's like someone shot this on a red camera in super slow-mo. 8 minutes, and that's a ridiculous amount of time. And it's so ridiculous, it's so extreme, as you said, Baron, that they canceled Cops and Aunt Jemima in the same week.
Right.
It's so ridiculous that Mitt Romney is out in these streets saying lives matter. Mitt Romney tried to take our black president away from us. And he's being like, even I cannot abide this. This goes against everything. And so, and the number one selling books amongst white Americans, with money at least, has shifted from like how to bake sourdough to how to become an anti-racist.
Yeah.
That's there's something happening there too. It's not just like the drama. It's like, yo, but there's many more people leaning into this than I'm used to. And I'm used to like being around the self-proclaimed good white people, and they are looking at themselves in a different way than I've ever seen in 42 years.
I think it's what it is America, and that's what I'm kind of getting at about the whole document thing. People will try to deny that this happened. You're absolutely right. I mean, obviously, we can't even name how many white supremacists try to say, oh, the Holocaust never happened, right? But the thing is that Germany had truth and reconciliation. America has never had truth and reconciliation. But right now we're having a de facto truth and reconciliation. It just had to happen. And I keep talking about, oh, white people are engaged in the mass education experiment. I think this is truth and reconciliation, whether we like it or not. Obviously, the state is not going to do it. The people have to do it. And obviously, technology and tech has been a gigantic part of that.
And the beauty, Baron, of when you say the state's not going to do it, the people have to do it. In a functioning democracy, the people are the state. So we are doing it. We are doing it. This president is irrelevant. He is a waste of a presidency. He's not just like a bad president. He is a missed opportunity, and history will capture that moment. But in the absence of that leadership, we got it on the ground.
Right.
Look at all these Black Lives Matter chapters. Look at the Black Visions Collective out of Minneapolis. Look at the People's Budget, LA movement. I mean, it's just amazing. It's really beautiful to see folks filling in the gaps. Now, some things can't be fully filled in. Like, we still could use bulk purchasing power for like N95 masks, which our nurses and doctors still don't have. Like, get on that, federal government. Right. But we will have an opportunity to pull some levers dramatically in a few months and get rid of this incompetency and restore some level of legitimacy to the government that's supposed to be of, by, and for us in the first place.
Gosh, man. I mean, we appreciate the thoughtfulness and the passion that you bring to these discussions, and but also how you apply it in a world that doesn't always leave room for it. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for having me. I am a fan of both of you. I remember getting to see you live in Portland, Mike. In fact, that's where I first debuted what became the TED Talk. And Baron already mentioned how far back we go. So I'm fans of both of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited you have this space, and the way you've been using it is incredible. Not just because I'm here, but who else you've got today and who you've had before. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. See you at the third rail, everybody. That's Baratunde Thurston. Check out his new podcast. We're having a moment coming out tomorrow. He is Baratunde on all the places. We're going to take a quick break. We went a little long, but I don't give a care. I mean, I do give a care because obviously there's a lot of other guests that we want to get to who are also fantastic and interesting. We're going to go a lot longer with them too. Sorry. Let's take a break. Welcome back to Call and Response. I'm Baron Vaughn.
I'm Open Mike Eagle.
We got a lot of good guests to get to, so I'm going to get right to it. What you think about that, Mike?
I mean, I think it's great. You know, we never get the chance to talk to people as long as we want to, and we never get a chance to process what they said as long as we want to. But that's to do on our personal time. We do have other folks to talk to.
That's right. So coming right into it, this next person coming to the stage, you might recognize from his podcast Higher Learning, which is on the Ringer. Round of applause, digital applause, everybody, for Van Lathan.
We got to figure out digital applause somehow. We got to figure out a way to make it happen.
It's just in my muscle memory to say that, man. How you doing, Van?
Good, man. How y'all doing?
We're doing all right. Doing all right, man. You know, one thing we like to ask everybody that comes to, especially when we get to chat with them real quick like this, is what has slowing down been like? We've all been through this lockdown for months where we're city folks. We're used to moving and grooving and getting things done. What's it been like to try to slow down for the last few months?
I did not adapt well, bro.
Really?
Of course not.
I did not adapt well. Like early on, I don't want to bring the mood down, but early on, I had what's known clinically as a complete fucking nervous breakdown.
Wow.
Clinically, okay.
That's a clinical term.
Yeah,
right?
science, yeah.
Nervous breakdown. And you know it's bad when you take it to Twitter. You know, because I was like, I can't go through this alone. Like I'm on the ground, like sprawled out. It felt like. So here's the thing. I noticed something. I always like to look at myself as an introvert, right? And I am an introvert. I don't mind being at home. I don't mind being here. But I gotta know somebody else is out. I gotta know that there's people at the bar, that the world is moving on. But when we hit pause at the same time, like I couldn't handle it. And for a long time, readapting and sort of having a new structure or actually having to have my own structure was hard for me. So I'm doing well now, but it was tough at first.
Well, just real quick to follow up on that. I mean, could you walk us through a little bit of how you got up out of that? I bet there's a bunch of people going through that right now. And any insight you could give them on how you brought yourself up would be pretty useful.
Right. So I was having intense anxiety both upon waking and before I went to sleep. 3 weeks, I think I didn't sleep. Like it just, everything changed. I wasn't working out because I was scared to go to the gym and then living in fear all day long, checking numbers. Do you know how unnatural it is to wake up? The first thing on your mind is you go find out how many people died.
Yeah.
Do you know how like crazy that is? Every single day you're looking at a number of how many human beings died.
Right.
For. And so it you know, after a while it built on me. So what I started to do was upon wake, don't do anything. Don't look at the phone. Don't do nothing. Take my vitamins, brush my teeth, go for a walk. Put the mask on, go for a walk. And that centered me. I would go for a walk and I would ground. I would read street signs. I would see the weirdness of downtown LA, which is not the best walk. And it's not. And just listen to the voices. Listen to old episodes of Martin. Like inject myself with joy in the voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen to TD Jakes, whatever it is. Inject myself with joy in the morning. Give myself a head start on the despair to come. And then at night, it was, edibles. And
I know that's true. I mean, that's great advice, Van. That's great advice. I mean, yes, take in joy, y'all, because the scientific term is it's a shit show out there. Obviously, that's crazy. That waking up and thinking about how many people died, and it's like we see a number which is always 4 digits. These are people. These are human beings. You see that number and you go, damn, but then you have to think about like those are human beings. Like that many people lost a family member or a loved one. It's insane. It's a mass death happen outside, right? But we're all staying inside, right? So we have to figure out like how do we live when we know there's so much death? And I think that what you said is a perfect example of how to do that. I wanted to ask you about I kind of wanted to ask you about like your podcasts a little bit. You got 2 different podcasts. Higher Learning, which we probably I assume named after a movie that we all know about, and then Way Down in the Hole, I would assume named after a lyric from the TV show that it's about.
And the Red Pill podcast as well, right?
Well, the red pill I've stopped on right now.
Okay.
But on the IP, I'm going to get back to the red pill at some point. But yeah, I'm focusing on the other two right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, he had to take the blue pill for a split second. So let's talk about let's talk about those two podcasts right quick. Why are you doing those?
Well, The Wire was service. I get paid to watch the greatest television show of all time, but the show really never got its flowers like it was supposed to.
Agreed.
Because the show was too real. Every other show that has ever lived has deified police and demonized criminals. The Wire is the only show that steps back and looks at systems. There's not one cop that you love in The Wire that's not guilty of police brutality, that's not guilty of doing some underhanded shit, that's not guilty of all of those things. What The Wire looks at and examines is how gangster capitalism, how the exploitation of the poor, and how the dwindling middle class in America have led to a point to where America has essentially embezzled money. And they look at that through examining different systems, schools, political systems, the police, even the economy inside of the hood. So it's a show that's even more relevant now than it was when it came out. And it was incredibly brave, which is probably why it wasn't embraced. Our higher learning, that's just me and Rachel trying to bring a little Black culture to the ringer. And we picked a hell of a time to do it.
Right.
But that's what we're trying to do. I didn't really watch The Bachelor, but me and Rachel are having a fun time doing that. But look, I feel like, I'll just be honest with you about this. I feel like I'm a magnet because I didn't even know about TMZ and some of its issues before I got there. But like once I got there, I was like, yo, man, is it all fucked up here? I was like looking around like, what? I never forget. This is when I realized it was fucked up. I'll tell you, the moment I realized it was fucked up.
Speak.
I was watching a video piece that they had cut, and they flashed Wiz Khalifa across the screen, and on the lower thirds it said Lil Bow Wow.
Oh.
I'm thinking to myself, the celebrity experts, everybody makes mistakes, right? But we're the celebrity experts here, right? We know all the celebrities and stuff like that. How do you confuse nigga who's notoriously 6'5", one who is notoriously
Lil
5'3"? It was just, I was like, you guys realize, and that went on TV.
Wow.
But at the Ringer, despite everything that's going on, there are strides. Everyone's taking this seriously. Unlike some things at TMZ, there are good people who have had blind spots in the past and are working on addressing those blind spots. And I can say that sincerely.
I think we lost audio for a sec.
A little bit. Say that again, Van.
I was just saying that the difference between what was going on at TMZ and what kind of the Ringer has dealt with this last couple of days is that there's a sincere desire to change things, to change the culture.
Damn, we cut out the same time.
I think we got the gist of it.
I guess the internet doesn't want us to hear this part.
Yeah, Bill Simmons is on the button. He's right.
Damn it, Al Gore.
On the Wire bit, I had hit you up about your Wire podcast because I had happened to actually start a Wire rewatch just a little bit before y'all did.
Also, me and Mike are open to being on the podcast, just so you know. Just
absolutely. But and I find myself thinking about The Wire a lot in the current moment because it examines systems. And for you, in the middle of your rewatch and examining the systems, especially how like the police and the attorney's office communicate and all of that, does it give you any insight into the current moment of what we're dealing with as a population with regards to the police?
Yeah. What you see is that the thing that grounds the thing that we're up against, and I know people hate it when you get to these talks. The thing that we're up against is capitalism. We're up against long-held structures about how everybody gets paid. We're talking about The reason why people are, afraid of the term defund the police is because defunding the police would go a long way to solving this problem. Billions of dollars have essentially been embedded through police forces over the course of generations. We, as Black American taxpayers, have taken out contracts on ourselves. We've paid taxes that have been turned around and killed us. And so when you watch The Wire, you see the system in action, and it's written by ex-beat reporter, people who understand the way that this goes. There's not ever one time during the show where solving a crime or getting a bad guy is seen as being done for the betterment of the community. It is for self. It is for the detective that's doing it so he can make something. For the upper, it's about getting more money. It's about whatever. It's for self. It's an individualistic look at these problems. It's not good versus evil. It's how everyone can get over, which is unfortunately what America has become.
Wow, that's very, very true. And everybody check out Van Lathan's podcast, Way Down in the Hole, and The Ringer, and of course Red Pill when that comes back, when he gets rid of that blue pill. Van, thank you very much for being here, man. Respect what you do, bruh. What you say?
Oh man, I appreciate you guys. I love both of you guys, man. Thanks.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for being a strong Black and a clear-eyed voice in spaces where it ain't a bunch of them. So I appreciate you bringing that and always having that honesty and authenticity wherever you go, man.
Yeah, thank you. And before I go, I want to welcome Bakari Sellers to the Ringer family.
Oh,
Bakari Sellers, the political side of it, the Ringer family. The diversity is happening. Things are growing. You got to change one step.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. All right, Van Lathan, everybody, follow him on everything, okay? At Van Lathan. Van, like Van. And Lathan, like Sanaa's dad. Okay, we have more guests coming. More guests? I was going to say guests, but it is really one guest. What do you think about that, Mike? How do you feel about the last guest, that we got one guest coming?
How do I feel about the fact that there's only one left? Is that what we're asking?
On the show, yes. How do you feel?
I feel excited. I mean, not because there's only one, but excited about who our guest is.
Oh, well, that actually makes a lot of sense. I am also excited about our guest. This person coming to the stage right now is a big reason we are even on this stage right now.
Right.
She is the CEO and founder of a little organization called Blavity. We have a little clip to roll. Please roll that.
This conference was definitely a dream in my mind, and I wanted to make sure that we could create a space for women who were connecting online, who were DMing each other, who were inspired by one another to actually meet in real life. Our generation spends so much time on our phones, and sometimes it's hard to get out. It's hard to make sure that you're really getting the connections that you need. So Summit 21 is about women pouring into one another and Black women building each other up.
Please welcome to call and response, Morgan DeBaun. How you doing, Morgan?
Feeling good. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. I wanted to start this off this way. In my humble observation, and this thing, we're only 2 weeks deep into a thing that's only going 2 weeks, at least this iteration of it. My co-host here, Baron Vaughn, done 3 objectively genius things in the creation and execution of this. I'm going to mention one right now. The other 2 I'm just going to make him guess. It's going to torture him all day long.
Okay.
But one of the things that he did that I feel is objectively brilliant is before we started doing this, when he was aware that Blavity was going to be so involved in this venture, he made time for the 3 of us to get on a Zoom call and talk and get to know each other. And in that talk, we got to hear your life story, which for me, I mean, the encapsulated version you tell to people that you meet when you're talking to them for 30, 40 minutes, sure. But it was very inspiring. I think one of the genius things about doing that, not only did it give us a chance to connect, but it was a way to bring a sort of collectivist ethos to a venture that is ultimately capitalistic. And I feel like that's such an important thing to bring forward. And I'm wondering, is in your world, is that something that you often have an intention to do, is to bring a collective spirit to these endeavors that usually don't have space for them?
What a deep question, Mike.
Yeah, I come out swinging.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the nature of my life. I mean, to me, that's called social impact and social entrepreneurship. We started this company. I started this company and wanted to intentionally make it a for-profit venture. Like, Blavity is not a non-for-profit, and I tell people that often as a reminder. I said, look, this is a capitalist organization, but we're using and leveraging the power of capitalism to advance the culture faster, because I believe in the economic empowerment of our people so deeply that it requires that we are our own owners and that we can have enough money and profits and revenue to actually be able to invest in things like this, things that maybe advertisers don't want to necessarily spend money on, because we've been able to do this project together. Like, we have a fantastic sizzle. We can go shop this around. We can actually now take it to the rest of the world and say, hey, you should be having conversations like this. If we didn't even have this space, and I give a huge shout out to Funny or Die as well for their investment. If we don't have the space or the freedom to make these types of cash investments to do this kind of stuff, we all know Hollywood would never take a chance on a show like this that they've never seen. Mm-hmm. They'd be like, nah, we're good. But now it's going to be a little bit harder to ignore us.
True that.
So that's, I really try to lead my life that way, where we take and reinvest. I call it like corporate reparations. Like, I take the money, reparations, and then I just like spread it amongst the Blacks. What we're going to do from there.
Oh, I love that. Speaking of being hard to ignore, I feel like that's, in a sense, like your MO. I feel like that's how you stick and move through the multiple different industries that you've been through, and even ramping up to the founding of Blavity and subsidiaries. I've never said subsidiaries to somebody who that actually means something to. So I guess what I'm curious to ask is, I know that you've talked about this in many different platforms, but I guess I want to hear about your an abridged version of your journey, but also what fuels you behind that, and how things like Blavity and their subsidiaries and even a show like this fit into your vision.
Yeah, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So I'm from St. Louis. That's near and dear to who I am. Born and raised there, went to college there. And I think I saw a lot through my undergraduate experience going to a top university. I went to WashU that was predominantly not people from St. Louis and predominantly not Black, right? It was a PWI. And I learned a lot about code switching and navigating through the different spaces. And there was a moment every single day that for me felt like home. It felt like safe. And that was the lunch table. And that's actually where Blavity came from. The word Blavity, Black gravity. That was that moment that we all used to come to the lunch table every day, and it'd be like 5 of us, 10 of us. I'm like, do you even go here? Did you graduate? And like, you felt like you were HBCU. Now, I never went to HBCU, so I can say that, but you felt really seen, and it didn't matter what your grades were. It didn't matter what classes you were in. Like, it was just home. And when I graduated and moved to Silicon Valley and to work at a big tech company, I was like, whoa, hey, this is a huge culture shock. Black girl, Midwest to California, palm trees, dogs, beer pong. I was like, what is this? And so for me, I think Blavity, the feeling of Blavity was the thing that I missed. It was the thing that I found that so many other young Black professionals, as we advance, and really of the diaspora at all entirely, as we advanced through our careers and we became more mobile, we were all feeling this sense of other. during the day at our work, as we were pursuing excellence for our own advancement, for our wealth generation, to be owners, to be leaders within our organizations, whatever it may be. This is the same thing in Hollywood now, right? Now that Blavity's here in LA, I'm like, oh, this is literally everywhere. And so the organization was started around how do we bridge that gap online? We know that Black people are early adopters of technology. We also know we're the best creators on every platform: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. They're all doing our stuff, right? It's like our energy is what fuels the growth. So why don't we have a big Black tech company? You know, and we still don't. Blavity is doing well. We're a platform, we're media. We started with media and we're building out our different tech platforms. But at the end of the day, we don't have a Black Facebook, or we are not significant owners of the platforms that we all use so much. So it's just a huge opportunity, I think, for us as a people to continue to advance towards.
You made sure to bring something forward from your university experience that you wanted to see in your professional life. So the Black gravity of the lunch table inspired you to bring this to fore. While you were in Silicon Valley, was there anything there that you wanted to make sure that you brought with you to Blavity?
Oh, what a great question. You know, I think one of the beautiful parts about Silicon Valley that's intoxicating, it's literally like just yummy, is the idea of billion-dollar enterprises. I mean, you are sitting in a cafe, you are standing in line at the movies, you are in an Uber, and everyone's like, what are you working on? What are you building? Oh, I have $1 billion app. I have $1 billion idea. Every single person you meet is starting a thing or working for the next big thing, period. And that is such a mind-blowing experience, especially for someone like me, where the biggest thing was like buying a mansion on the main street. Like that was like the big idea in St. Louis, you know, it was like, we're gonna buy the big house, right? But
yeah.
like that was it. That's where we stopped. And so to be surrounded, you can't help but think that you have wings. You can't help but think you can build a platform that 1 billion people can use, because you look down the street, you're driving down the street and you've got Salesforce headquartered, you've got Facebook's headquarters, you've got Palantir, like literally everybody, same streets, right? In your apartment buildings, in your Uber pools, like everywhere. So that is what I wanted to bring to the Black community, is that thought and that feeling of being invincible and building platforms for millions and billions of people. And they're like, why the hell not? And like, let's go big. And let's make it a really beautiful, great experience. When you look at our conferences, when you look at our experiences online, you know, we try to do our best to also lead with design excellence and making sure that people feel like this is a top quality experience, the same way that you would expect if you go to a Google conference. You know, if you go to Afro Tech, like we got water fizzly, you know, fizzly water, we got DJs, you know, we give out candy, we got backpacks, like we're gonna do it all.
Fantastic. On that idea of all these things that you're doing, and also just I love the philosophy behind Blavity, even the word Blavity. And from what I know about gravity, particles come together and eventually become bigger and bigger masses, right? So I want to talk about this big mass that you have started called Afro Tech. So this is a conference that has been happening, obviously not at this exact moment, but like, tell us about that and tell us about the way that it's extension of all these different ideas we've been discussing here.
Yeah, so going back to when I was an employee at a big tech company, I was one of maybe 10 Black people on our campus at the company that I worked at, which was over 3,000 people at that headquarters. And that's crazy. Like, you know, and there was very few, maybe 1 or 2 Black people that were directors or above. And so I felt like, okay, I'm not seen here. Cool, I get it. I don't know this world, I'm just learning. And then I decided to quit because I was like, I don't want to be at the top of my career as a top Black person at this company by the age of 25, which is like almost what I could have done, you know? So, but not because I deserved it, but because there's just no one else.
Yeah.
you know? And then, so I was like, all right, I'm going to quit. I'm going to build Blavity, build up my dream, really follow kind of my passion. And then I realized, wow, in Silicon Valley, even on this side of the entrepreneurs, the creators, the venture capitalists, I'm still one of very few Black women in the industry. Less than 1% of venture funding goes to women. Like less than 2%, I believe, goes to women. And then even a smaller fraction goes to Black women, of course, in the world. That's crazy.
That's
so when I saw that, I said, you know what, as a community, as a Black tech community, we do exist. I see y'all down the street and be like, hey guys, hey, but we don't always know each other. So we had all these Google groups and Facebook groups and listservs and, you know, WhatsApp groups. I'm like, okay, this is too much work. We need an event where everybody can come together and just share what we're learning and get connected. So when you go to Afro Tech, and this is so critical, and I think we should all do this, whatever industry it is, we don't sit there and we don't talk about all the problems. We don't say, why are there no Black people in tech? Let's have a panel about why there's no Black people in tech. And we don't invite the heads of D&I to go on stage and say, well, so-and-so company is the best, most diverse Black company or most diverse tech company. I'm like, yeah, it's 0.5% over 0.1%. Like that doesn't, it's not success. You don't get to go on stage and talk shit about that. Like, and you don't get to parade your report. So what we talk about instead is like, hey, I'm a Black founder. I've raised over $10 million. This is how I did it. I'm a Black founder. I have a team of over 50 people. This is how my org works. I'm a Black entrepreneur, I'm a Black engineer at Twitter, and I just designed and built this really cool algorithm. Let me show you how. Like we talk about our strength so that we can accelerate faster as a community and actually learn from each other. And so the tagline for Afro Tech has been, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We don't need permission at it, you know? So that is why Afro Tech started and why we've even evolved it even since the conference into a media brand, into a platform, into a community, and why, you know, it's very much in alignment with Blavity Inc. as an overall company.
You've alluded to scale a lot, I think, in this conversation. And it touches on something that I think about, because as awesome, as impressive as Blavity is, knowing you, I can tell that it's not near its ultimate form yet.
Oh, she's only at the beginning.
Exactly.
yeah, of course.
And I would love to hear from you what that final platform looks like, as well as you've been able to envision it.
What a tough question. You know, I struggle with that because I couldn't have told you exactly what it looked like today 5 years ago.
Right.
What I can tell you is the pieces that I remember my first pitch deck to investors. It was super cute. It had a little Black girl at a lunch table, and it had bubbles around her that said events, podcast, TV, film, web, newsletters. And it just said, like, this is just all of the elements of content and storytelling and connection that this young woman sitting at this lunch table has. And Blavity should be all around her every day. Now, it doesn't have to be Blavity Inc. brand. It could be that we're enabling other brands or other conversations, just like this show, or we're enabling other creators to do that, other podcasts, other TV shows, whatever it may be. I don't need it to say my name on it, but we need to be a part of the conversation and pushing the culture forward for any young Black girl, any Black person in America every single day should be exposed in relation with something that Blavity Inc. has its finger on.
And that's that collective kind of community sense again, building that. That's really incredible. And I guess that's the last thing I want to ask about, just about, like, you know, obviously you're an alum of 30 Under 30, many different lists that you've been on, and you know that puts you in a group, I guess you could say, you know, a community of people even to be one of these lists. And I guess I wanted to ask you about the advice that you have to pass on. Like, who are the people that you have followed in their model, you know, who has inspired you, and then what kinds of things do you want to pass on to my friend's daughter who's in coding classes right now?
Oh, so many things. The people who've helped me so much along the way have actually been other entrepreneurs and leaders who are maybe 5 to 10 years max ahead of me. And the reason why I've really tried to surround myself with so many peer advisors is because I find that their advice, their feedback, their realness is more practical for me. And so, and I can see it, you know, so I can see them move like just a few steps ahead. And that's helped me navigate the nuances that I never learned because I didn't go to B school. My family's not entrepreneurs. Like I just had to learn all this stuff from scratch. And so I wanted to surround myself with people who are just a little bit ahead. You know, I can't aim too high, but I can get a little bit every single time. I just a little bit more. So that would be my advice to any young person who is looking to network, looking to advance, looking to kind of surround themselves with the community. Focus on those peers. You know, don't go after the person who just got an Emmy. Like, oh, you know, let's focus on the people who are just a little bit bigger and one or two steps ahead, because one, they're also going to have more time for you. They're going to have time to say yes. They're going to be more likely to actually engage with you, and their experience is probably more relevant to the world that we live in today rather than the world that existed for someone my age 20 years ago. I'm like, it's a different world, bro. So, you know, that was nice, but this is now. That's my advice.
One, my final thing I want to pick your brain about is because I want you to have that giant platform. I want the Black Google-sized company, Black Facebook-sized platform to exist with 1 billion users and it being something that's just a foundational part of society. When I think about those companies, when you think about Google, you think about Facebook, you think about Amazon, I want your insight into whether there's a way that you can have a giant tech company that doesn't make its money selling people's personal info or exploiting, you know, labor and, you know, killing off retail. I wonder if you have any insight or any ideas about how you can exist at that scale and not be predatory almost by nature.
Yeah, I would say there's certainly a way to get to that scale. Now, that level of profit, no.
Gotcha.
So I would say Wikipedia is at that scale, right?
Nice.
Like there's plenty of platforms that are at that scale, but aren't like white supremacy bad.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that when you start talking about profits, you got to ask yourself, well, how are we getting these profits? Like there's only like Apple is sitting on more money than the U.S. government in cash, right? Like how, why, where does that come, like what? So, yes, that's my answer is we can get to the scale. We can get to that level of people engaging, using, connecting without necessarily sacrificing the impact and the original mission of the company. And I think that has to do with not being greedy with the profits.
Right. Okay. I get that. So it's in a way, it's about the relationship that the company has to its users.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
That's fantastic.
And I think it's corporate greed. I mean, I really do. I think, you know, when you look at these salaries that people get paid and the pressure that people are under to turn profits quarter over quarter over quarter, it's just like, why, you know, like, so maybe I'm not there, so I can't see it. I'll leave room for that, but we're a very long way away. And until then, I'm going to stick with doing good.
Nice.
And with that, we know you got to go. I want to give you a chance real quick to give a couple of shout outs if you want. Shout outs to people who are making similar moves to yourself in your industry, but also just anybody in doing anything that makes you happy that you would like to share with anybody listening.
Couple shout outs. One, shout out to Mike for calling me about how Funny or Die can help.
Mike Farah, that is.
Mike Farah, yes, indeed.
You know, we wouldn't be here if he hadn't just taken a chance as a white heterosexual man to just say, what should we do? You know, and I think that I like that white people are doing that right now. So shout out to Mike. And two, I want to say shout out to actually two people, Charlemagne and Angela Rye. I think that they have both been carrying a ton of weight for our community lately. I can't even imagine. I mean, I was just texting with Angela earlier today, like the level of care and intensity that they've both been operating lately is phenomenal. And I don't think we give them enough roses. And then yeah, I mean, I also just shout out my team. You know, like my team has been carrying a ton of weight as well. We had to make budget cuts because of COVID and add, you know, revenue going down, and it's been brutal. But they've been showing up more than ever, and I'm just so grateful to have a beautiful, smart, hardworking, dedicated team.
Well, we're grateful to be able to be involved with you and your company. It's just it's inspiring to listen to you speak about how you think about what your company can be and its place in the world. And I'm so glad that you think at the scale you think at.
Yes.
And it's you know, that's something that I think would inspire anybody.
Yeah, I like the way you think. You make me feel galvanized, you know what I'm saying? So you're kind of like the oracle. That's how I'm going to see you from now on. It's like, what does Morgan think? One day you're going to be like, why is he calling me? Morgan DeBaun, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, Morgan can be followed on Twitter at Morgan DeBaun, DeBaun. And that's it. Thank you very much for being here, Morgan. That's the show for today.
It is.
It's always hard because I think the thing about Morgan is, and I would say that's true about every guest, but particularly with Morgan, I feel like definitively you just never get enough time with her. It's just that's just the level she's at. It's just like, I got so much to ask, but she's always got to go.
Yeah, because somebody else is also waiting to, you know, to say things to her and hear things from her, you know.
Exactly, because she's got things to say. And whew, what a great episode. Hope you had some thoughts and felt some feelings today. We have an episode tomorrow that we think will be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's going to be, we're talking about protesting through art as protesting through art. We have a couple of fantastic guests. We got the homie Uzo Waduba here from, well, many different shows. Currently you can see her playing Shirley Chisholm. And then also we have the homie Dulce Sloan, who we've known for many times. She's on The Daily Show, duh. And we're also going to have J-Rock, who is a legend from the House of Ebony, the legendary House of Ebony, here to talk about all kinds of different things. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow. And Mike, what you got to say?
I'm really excited to talk about that. You know, me being a creative, as we all are, but specifically, you know, me working through music, it gives me a chance to process things that we can't always talk about. We don't always have the thoughts or the feelings front of mind. So I'm interested to hear how all these other people channel all of the feelings that we're trying to process through their various works.
Yes, and it's always more informational when they're doing something that I don't do, because they're going to have a better way of seeing things that I never thought about. With that, that's it for us. Thank you very much to Funny or Die and Blavity. Please check out blavityinc.com/Afro Tech to learn more about that conference that I hope me and Mike will be invited to when it's back up, and all that stuff. And for Baron Vaughn and Open Mike Eagle, I guess I want to say, sometimes when you sigh, make sure you ask why.
Okay. All right.